Today I'm standing here instead of Inti Geli, who is one of our students. He's bilingual. He's in French and German. Eva Noon, who you heard already before at the beginning, my postdoc, who's been doing stuff on landmarks mostly, and I basically got tucked onto that paper as well. The work of the student is ongoing. So this is a very provisional talk in that sense, which I think is quite nice because next year I can present all of the results of what came out of that. And instead of looking at landmarks that are visual landmarks in an urban area or in a non-urban area, in natural areas, we started looking at different modalities. So having auditory or olfactory landmarks in addition to visual landmarks, which would also be nice for your emotions, I think. But again, we're very at the beginning there. There's a collaboration with people, with psychologists from Germany. And now we started looking at aquatic environments, underwater landmarks, if you want to say. So the reason for that is because the student in Tigeni is actually also a diver. So he was very interested in contributing to this discussion on landmarks using his experience in this underwater environments. All right. So we know that landmarks serve as important reference points in spatial environments, and that the study of landmarks in aquatic environments is actually a relatively new and distinctive area of investigation. I mean, we talked about landmarks in aquatic environments, so above the sea, sure, we've done that, we've seen that, you know, all Phoenicians did that very well. But we're actually now looking underwater. So you're actually in the water, right? You hear differently, you see differently. You probably need some kind of equipment in order to be able to do that as well. We know that nautical charts actually contain an enormous amount of information, such as depth of the water or nature of the seabed or any kind of man-made structures or landmarks, if you want to. But not much information about the world below the surface, apart from knowing, well, if you can run aground while you're navigating, right? That would be a problem. So shallow rock formations or wrecks or something like that. So actually, we are interested in figuring out what you can actually perceive as a landmark underwater, right? We can look at research papers and educational materials on diving, which is has a lot of landmark information in as well. Stuff like this book here from actually 1971, the Guide to Underwater Navigation, which we are still trying to get, or I'm still trying to get, or how to read a nautical chart, which and then extracting information that actually deals with the underwater stuff, right? So we're doing the data collection. We're also looking at the nautical charts themselves, information on the topography. Again, also looking at the words that are being used, similar to the study on natural environments above ground. Well, yeah, above water, so to speak. So topography, but underwater topography. And then also look into analysis of research of autonomous underwater vehicles that also need to use some kind of visual landmarks in order to navigate. So those are our data sources, if you want to. In the data collection and the education materials, I actually really relate mostly to diving handbooks. You know, how do you dive in certain areas? And those are very different depending also on where you are. So the diving environment that the student is actually currently in is in the southern part of France. And so he's actually in the Mediterranean, somewhere, I don't know exactly where, but yeah, somewhere there. And he likes going there, and that might actually have an impact as well. The method that we're using for this study is, I think, survey. Collecting data on aquatic landmarks by talking to real divers that do this every day, but also to casual divers like tourists that do some kind of snorkeling once in a while, and ask them, you know, how did you find your way around? Did you orient yourself? Could you orient yourself in some fashion? So we actually do have professional people, but we also have amateur scuba divers. The whole thing is published as an online survey in several diving clubs that we have contact to, and they're both in French and in German. And the survey questions that we're using, those ones here in this section translated. They're on the diver's experience, so we know something about the person, the dive sites where the divers have made both few and many dives, so their experiences with the area, a list of landmarks to choose from and add to, also in terms of explaining other divers, like an experienced professional diver explaining to other new divers how to navigate in that environment. And then their preferred method of navigation. Would they rather have like a passive stance, going on a guided tour where you have someone who you don't have to worry about your orientation because you have a person you know will take you back? Or are you rather the kind of exploratory person who wants to explore the area on their own? In addition to this data gathering from the people, we also asked the diver centers themselves, the dive centers, not the dive centers themselves, about the information they provide, either periodically, because there might be stuff that might be changing in a certain area, but also maps, any kind of artificial landmarks they put into the water themselves, because they realized that people would get disoriented in certain areas or around the dive sites, to help them, once you get up, then you can orient yourself. So making sure that we're mixing underwater and above water as well, because sometimes the only way you can orient yourself once you had dived is to come back up and then look around you and figure out where you are. Okay. We do have some expected outcomes. We hope that everything provides valuable insights into usefulness and recognizability of different types of aquatic landmarks. So we're back to an ontology if you want. So we're trying to figure out different types of aquatic landmarks. We then want to do a categorized list of all the landmarks that have been used in those specific sites where we had the surveys ongoing. And we will hope that the initial results will provide an input from both novice and experienced divers diving at the same site, hopefully also, or maybe showing differences. Someone who's experienced might do things differently than someone who's a novice. And hopefully it identifies something like landmarks that all of them agree to, but also other types of landmarks that they might not agree on. And that by itself is also going to be an interesting thing. You might have noticed that we currently only have 15 participants, but this is growing. All right. At the time the paper was written, there were 15 participants. We're up to 22 now. It's still not a large number, but we're trying to get more people, and the students' time is until the end of September. So you should have finished his survey by around end of July, middle of August. So we're hoping for about double of that in this combination. All right, something else that's written here. It's more difficult for novice divers to accurately judge correct size and distance of landmarks, or distance to landmarks. And we also are aware that, yes, the light refraction underwater and the diving mask create some kind of distortion of your sensory input. And that might actually give you a different idea of the layout and the landmarks positioning, either on your mental map, but also in the real space. Okay. So we're actually hoping that this will provide valuable insights into human navigation in aquatic environments, something that is new to us, probably new to the community. We haven't found anything in Agile or in spatial cognition in the conference, nor in COSIT to aquatic environments. In anything, the creation of a categorized list detailing the usefulness and recognizability of different types of landmarks. So two things in there, right? Landmarks themselves. And hopefully providing a valuable resource for divers seeking to navigate safely and efficiently. And if I want to go back to the architectural thing or to the design thing, I mean, a scuba diving club needs to make sure that people don't get lost or disoriented. That's bad for business if they die on your job. So actually designing an environment in a way that by maybe putting in artificial landmarks to help people orient while they are diving as novices, for example, but maybe taking away this landmark thingy for the experienced group might be something that a scuba group would actually take into consideration. All right. Yeah, and we also want to understand underwater navigation because that's very different on sensory difference. Thank you very much.